All right, so you might be thinking kayaking in the winter, really. But seriously, trust me on this one.
Yeah, we're talking about a whole different world out there.
Exactly. A whole world of adventure just waiting for you on those icy waters. And for this deep dive, we're going to be looking at a podcast episode from the Motor City Paddle Club, all about winter kayaking in Michigan.
And it's not just about paddling through slush and ice.
Definitely not. We're talking serene landscapes, incredible wildlife encounters.
Like a totally different kind of peacefulness.
Yeah, a whole new level.
So what's really cool about winter kayaking is that you're seeing nature in like its quietest form. Everything is pristine. Imagine paddling past snow-covered trees, and the only sound you hear is your paddle breaking the silence.
Okay, that does sound amazing.
It's magical.
But being out on the water when it's freezing, I mean, that takes some serious preparation. And the podcast episode we're looking at really emphasized safety.
Oh, for sure.
Especially when it comes to cold water immersion.
Yeah, that's like the biggest risk.
For sure.
Absolutely. And they go into a lot of detail about this principle called the 1-10-1 principle. Have you heard of this?
I have not.
So this is crucial for understanding how your body responds to cold water shock.
Oh, okay.
So that 1 minute to control your breathing after you suddenly get immersed.
Yeah.
It's all about fighting that gasp reflex that we all have, which can lead to inhaling water.
Wow. I never really thought about it like that.
Yeah.
So it's not just about staying calm. You're actually trying to control a physical reaction that could be dangerous.
Exactly. It's like an instinct. You go in the water, you gasp.
Yeah.
We have to fight that.
Okay, and what about those 10 minutes of meaningful movement? Does that mean trying to swim back to shore?
Not necessarily. It's more about being strategic to increase your chances of, rescuing yourself. Think about it. If you just start thrashing around wildly, you're going to waste so much body heat.
Right.
Instead, you might focus on getting back into your kayak if you can, signal for help, or even finding something to cling to so that you can stay afloat and conserve energy.
Okay, that makes sense. And this is where having the right gear is super important, right? I mean, the episode talked a lot about dressing for the conditions, but it honestly seemed like a lot to take in.
It is. It is. There's a lot to it.
Can you break it down for us a little bit?
Yeah. So the Motor City Paddle Club, they're big on this 3-layer system.
Okay.
So first, you have your base layer. This needs to be something that wicks away moisture, like merino wool or synthetic fabrics.
Mm-hmm.
This keeps the sweat away from your skin. Then you have a warm, insulating middle layer. Think fleece or wool. That traps the heat.
Okay.
And then finally, a waterproof and windproof outer layer. This will protect you from the elements.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. What about those specialized hand coverings they were talking about?
Oh, yeah.
I've never even heard of pogies. What are those?
Kogies are like a game changer. They're like a mitten-like pouch that's attached to your paddle shaft.
Oh.
So you can grip the paddle directly, but your hands stay warm.
Oh, so it's like having built-in hand warmers right on your
And
paddle.
gold softens.
Okay. But then they were also talking about dry suits versus wetsuits.
Uh-huh.
I'm a little confused, honestly, about which one is better for different situations.
It really depends. The water temperature, your personal preference, like a lot of factors.
Okay.
But a dry suit, like it sounds, keeps you completely dry,
Right.
which is great for really cold conditions. It's like wearing your own personal waterproof cocoon.
That sounds cozy.
Yeah.
But are there any downsides? They did mention something about, like, being bulky and expensive.
Yeah, they can be a bit bulkier than a wetsuit,
Right.
and you need to wear specific undergarments for insulation.
Mm.
And yeah, they do tend to be pricier than wetsuits.
Okay.
A wetsuit, on the other hand, works by trapping a thin layer of water between your skin and the suit, which your body heat warms up.
Okay, so you're basically relying on your own internal furnace. But if you're immersed in really cold water, wouldn't that lose its effectiveness?
That is the trade-off. So wetsuits, they're less effective in extremely cold water compared to a dry suit. And they're also a bit more restrictive.
Right.
The key is to choose the option that best suits, the conditions and your own personal level of comfort.
Okay, that makes sense. And of course, no matter what, a properly fitted and Coast Guard approved PFD is a must.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Safety first.
Always.
Always. So now before you even think about hitting the water, it's really important to give your kayak a good inspection. You're looking for any signs of damage, cracks, leaks, anything like that.
Right. Because cold water can make those things worse.
Yeah, that's a good point. The cold temperatures can make those materials more brittle, right? And what about those float bags they mentioned?
Oh, yeah. Float bags are basically inflatable bags that you put inside your kayak hatches,
Oh, okay.
and they give you extra buoyancy.
Okay.
And they help prevent the kayak from completely filling up with water if you happen to capsize.
So they're kind of like little life preservers for your kayak.
Exactly, yeah. Mini life preservers. And they also said to bring a basic repair kit
Oh, right, right.
because you never know. You could be out there and something could happen.
Yeah.
So a little bit of duct tape, a multi-tool, and patch materials could be really helpful.
Yeah, it could really save the day.
Definitely.
All right, so we've got our gear sorted out. Kayak is prepped, ready to go. What about choosing the right location? Does that change in the winter?
Oh, yeah, for sure. The Motor City Paddle Club really emphasized sticking to familiar waterways, especially in winter. You want to be in an area where you know the terrain, you've already identified, like clear exit points,
Right.
and you can easily get back to shore if you need to.
Right. You don't want to get caught in like a sudden blizzard and not know where you are.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing they stressed, and this is non-negotiable for winter kayaking, is the buddy system.
Oh, yeah.
Never kayak alone, especially in winter. Your buddy not only enhances the experience, but they're a crucial safety net. If one of you has trouble, the other one is there to help.
For sure. Plus, sharing the adventure with a friend is always more fun. And speaking of planning, they also talked about letting someone on land know your itinerary and when you expect to be back.
It's a small step that can make a huge difference. It ensures that somebody knows where you are and when to expect you back. So if something happens, they know where to start looking.
Right. It gives them a starting point if they need to, call for help or anything. Okay, so we've got our safety covered. Gear is ready. We've got our buddy. We've got a plan. What about the actual paddling? Do the techniques change at all when it's freezing cold out there?
Oh, definitely. In winter, it's all about finding that balance between generating body heat and conserving energy.
Okay.
You don't want to be like powering through your strokes. You want to keep a steady and efficient rhythm.
So it's more about finesse than like brute strength.
Exactly. And remember those bracing techniques we talked about earlier? Those are even more important in the winter.
Right, to prevent capsizing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're using your paddle and your body weight to stay upright
Right.
if the kayak starts to tip.
So you're constantly adjusting and making these small corrections.
Yeah, you have to.
Just to keep your balance.
Yeah, mastering those techniques can really reduce your chances of ending up in the water.
And speaking of staying warm, don't forget to fuel up, then stay hydrated.
Oh, right. Pack those thermoses with warm drinks, right?
Yes.
And some high-energy snacks.
Trail mix, anyone.
I love it. But what about once you get back on land? I imagine there's a right way to warm up after being out in the cold like that.
Absolutely. The podcast really stressed the importance of warming up gradually. As tempting as it might be to jump into a hot shower right away, you need to change into dry clothes first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let your body temperature regulate slowly.
Okay, so you don't want to just shock your system after being out there in those freezing temperatures.
No, you don't.
Got it.
And while you're changing, check yourself and your buddy for any signs of frostbite or hypothermia.
So, like, numbness in your fingers or toes, shivering uncontrollably, feeling super fatigued.
Slurred speech. Those are all things to watch out for.
Yeah, okay.
And before you put your gear away, rinse it off with fresh water and let it dry completely.
Right, especially if you've been paddling in salt water, right?
Yeah. Salt can really damage your equipment over time.
Oh, wow. I never realized how much goes into getting ready for a winter kayaking trip. It's a lot.
Yeah, it is. It's more than just grabbing a paddle and hopping in.
Yeah.
But that extra preparation is what makes it so rewarding. It's a unique experience.
Well, I'm definitely feeling inspired to maybe give this a try. Join us in part 2, where we'll delve even deeper into the beauty and the rewards of winter kayaking.
It's going to be great. One thing that really stuck out to me in that podcast episode from the Motor City Paddle Club was how they talked about encountering wildlife in the winter. It's completely different than summertime. You mean besides the fact that you might actually see a creature out there other than a jet ski? I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, think about it. In the summer, everything's lush and green, and the animals are harder to spot. But in the winter, everything's bare.
Right?
So against a backdrop of snow and ice, they're much easier to see. And because there's less human activity, they tend to be less skittish.
Oh, so you're getting a glimpse into their secret winter lives.
Exactly.
What kind of animals are we talking about here?
Well, the Motor City Paddle Club, they mentioned seeing bald eagles perched on these frost-covered branches.
Wow.
Deer cautiously approaching the water's edge. Even otters playing on the ice.
Oh, wow.
Imagine seeing those encounters from your kayak.
That's incredible. And to think most people are just, bundled up inside all winter, completely missing out on this whole other world.
It really is another world.
Yeah.
And it's not just the wildlife, it's the sounds too, you know. In the winter, the silence is almost palpable. It's just the gentle sound of your paddle, maybe the crunch of ice on the water, maybe a distant bird call.
Okay, I'm officially hooked. It sounds like a completely immersive experience, almost meditative.
Exactly. You're totally surrounded by nature, and it's incredibly grounding. It's like a chance to disconnect from all the noise and chaos of, everyday life and just connect with the present moment.
So it's not just about the physical challenge of kayaking, but like there are mental and emotional benefits too.
Big time. It's a chance to reconnect with yourself and with nature on a deeper level.
Now, I remember reading in the show notes that you're a pretty experienced winter kayaker yourself. Have you had any like really memorable wildlife encounters?
Oh, definitely. One that really stands out was this time I was paddling along this quiet stretch of river. It was early morning, just after a snowfall, and everything was blanketed in white. I came around a bend, and I swear I came face to face with a whole family of river otters. They were playing on this thin sheet of ice.
Oh, wait, what did they do? Did they seem startled by you?
Not at all. They just kept playing, sliding, and tumbling on the ice. They were completely unfazed by me being there.
That's
It was
amazing.
pure joy to watch.
I can only imagine. It's amazing how those kinds of experiences can stay with you long after you've, gotten off the water.
They really do. They kind of remind us of the beauty and resilience of nature, even in the depths of winter.
Right.
And that's something worth celebrating and protecting.
Absolutely. It's a good reminder that there's so much to appreciate and explore, beyond our usual comfort zones.
Exactly. Winter kayaking is a perfect example of that. It challenges you physically, mentally. It rewards you with these incredible experiences and connects you with nature in a way that few other activities can.
One of the things the Motor City Paddle Club emphasized was that winter kayaking isn't just for, seasoned pros. They encourage anyone who's interested to give it a try.
Oh, 100%. And I think
Oh.
that's a really important point. With the right preparation, guidance, and respect for the elements, you know, winter kayaking is something that people of all skill levels can enjoy.
I remember you mentioning that you actually started winter kayaking as a complete beginner. What was that experience like?
Yeah, I was pretty apprehensive at first. I had some experience with summer kayaking, but venturing out in the winter seemed, I don't know, daunting. But I signed up for this beginner's workshop with a local paddling club.
Uh-huh.
It totally changed my perspective.
What was it about that workshop that made the difference?
Well, it was a few things. I think, first of all, having these experienced instructors guiding us through, cold water safety, all the basic techniques, it gave me a huge confidence boost.
Right.
They taught us everything from how to dress properly, how to choose the right gear, paddling and rescue techniques. It was a lot.
So they're not just throwing you in a kayak and saying, good luck.
No, not at all.
Okay.
They really took the time to explain why we were doing everything. So I understood the importance of each safety precaution, each technique.
Gotcha.
And then there was the camaraderie. We were all beginners, so we were all supporting each other, learning from each other.
There's something about facing a challenge together that creates this, like, special bond.
Totally.
It's like you're all in it together.
For sure. And that sense of shared adventure and accomplishment, it made the experience so much more rewarding.
Okay, I have to ask, was there ever a moment during that workshop where you thought, what have I gotten myself into?
Honestly, yeah. It was during our first wet exit practice.
Oh, wow.
The water was freezing, and I remember fumbling with my spray skirt and feeling that initial shock of cold water.
Right.
But then I popped up to the surface, and everybody was laughing and cheering.
Oh.
And I knew I was going to be okay.
So a little bit of panic followed by a lot of laughter. Sounds like a typical kayaking experience to me.
You got it. And that's the beauty of it,
Yeah.
It's a challenge, but it's a ton of fun. And those moments of shared laughter and support are what make it so memorable.
Speaking of support, the Motor City Paddle Club, they really hammered home the importance of the buddy system,
Absolutely.
especially in winter. Why is that so crucial?
Well, like we talked about earlier, cold water immersion, that's incredibly dangerous. And having a buddy with you not only provides, an extra set of eyes to watch out for hazards, they can also help you if you encounter any problems, like capsizing or getting stuck in the ice.
Right.
So it's like having a built-in safety net just in case.
Exactly.
And then there's the psychological aspect, too.
Yeah.
Knowing you have someone there supporting you, encouraging you, sharing the experience with, it makes a world of difference, especially when the conditions are challenging.
It's like having your own personal cheerleader out there on the water.
Kind of, yeah. But more importantly, you have someone who can share that responsibility of safety with you. Make sure you both get home okay.
Absolutely. Now, I know we talked about, practicing essential paddling techniques like bracing,
Right.
but how do those change when you're dealing with icy conditions?
Well, I mean, the basic principles of bracing, they stay the same.
Right,
You're still using your paddle and your body weight to maintain stability and prevent capsizing.
right.
But in the winter, your reactions have to be even sharper. You have to be more proactive, I think, about anticipating potential hazards.
What do you mean by being more proactive?
Well, for example, in icy conditions, you might have to adjust your paddling technique to avoid hitting chunks of ice.
Right.
Those could damage your kayak or knock you off balance.
Okay.
You also need to be more aware of your surroundings, like constantly scanning for things like ice shelves, narrow passages, areas where the current might be stronger.
Gotcha. So it's really about heightened awareness, right?
Yes.
And being prepared to react quickly to these changing conditions.
Exactly. And that's where practice is so important. The more you practice those bracing techniques and get comfortable maneuvering your kayak in different conditions, the more confident and prepared you'll be.
Right. So it's about building up that muscle memory so that your reactions become instinct.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the importance of mental preparation as well. Winter kayaking can be mentally demanding,
Right.
especially when it's cold and windy and you're facing those tough conditions.
So it's not just about physical strength and endurance, but like mental fortitude as well.
It really is. Having a positive mindset, focusing on your breathing, staying calm under pressure, it makes a big difference in your ability to enjoy it and handle any unexpected situations.
It's funny, we've been talking about all the challenges and potential risks of winter kayaking, but I have to say, I'm actually feeling kind of excited about the prospect of trying it.
Good. That's the spirit. Embrace the adventure. Respect the elements. Trust in your skills and preparation.
Okay, so let's say someone's listening to this and they are now totally hooked on the idea of winter kayaking.
Uh-huh.
What's the best way to get started?
I always recommend finding a reputable outfitter or a paddling club in your area that offers guided trips or workshops specifically for winter kayaking.
So it's really about seeking out expert guidance, right? Rather than just trying to go it alone.
Oh, absolutely. Those experienced instructors, they can teach you everything you need to know, give you valuable insights into local conditions, and make sure you have a safe and enjoyable experience.
And maybe make some new paddling buddies along the way.
Exactly. Plus, going with a group, it's a great way to build your confidence and learn from each other.
Yeah, definitely. As we're talking, I'm remembering that part of the Motor City Paddle Club episode where they talked about pre-trip planning.
Oh, yeah, that's crucial, especially in the winter when things can change so fast.
You're right. They really stressed checking the weather forecasts, choosing the right clothing and gear, letting somebody know your itinerary, all that.
Those are all super important.
Right.
Winter weather is unpredictable, so you have to be ready for anything.
Yeah. They also mentioned something about ice reading, which I thought sounded intriguing.
Oh, yeah. Ice reading is essential, especially if you're going to be paddling on any frozen waterways. It's about learning to identify different types of ice and understanding their stability and potential dangers.
So it's like learning a whole new language.
Kind of, yeah. Experienced ice readers can tell you a lot about the conditions just by looking at the ice.
Really?
Yeah.
So, for example, what kind of things would you be looking for?
Well, clear. Blue ice is generally the strongest and safest to paddle on, while white or opaque ice is weaker and more prone to breaking. You also want to be aware of any cracks, pressure ridges, or open water leads. Those can all be signs of instability.
Sounds like there's a lot to learn.
There is.
Where would someone even begin to develop those skills?
The best way to learn is from experienced guides or instructors who really know the local ice conditions. A lot of paddling clubs offer workshops and guided trips that are specifically focused on ice reading and safe winter paddling techniques.
So it's like anything else, you wouldn't expect to become an expert overnight.
No.
It takes practice and guidance.
And a willingness to learn.
Right. From people who know more than you.
Exactly. And that's what makes winter kayaking so rewarding. It's a continuous journey of learning, discovery, pushing your boundaries.
Well, I'm definitely feeling inspired to delve a little deeper into the world of ice reading and winter kayaking. Join us in part 3 where we'll explore even more about the magic and adventure that awaits us out there on those frozen waters. Okay, we've talked about gear and safety and wildlife and even like ice reading. But what I'm really curious about is the feeling of winter kayaking. What's it actually like out there on the water?
It's really unlike anything else.
Mm.
Just imagine you're bundled up in all your layers, right? The air is crisp and cold. Maybe there's even a little snow falling. And you push off from the shore, the kayak just glides silently through the water. And there's this incredible stillness, this solitude you just don't get in the summertime.
It sounds magical, honestly. But with the water being so cold, is it even possible to be comfortable?
That's where the right gear comes in. You know, that three-layer system we were talking about.
Right.
Moisture-wicking base layer, warm mid-layer, and waterproof outer shell. When you combine that with, pogies, a good hat, warm boots, you can actually stay surprisingly warm, even in freezing temperatures.
So it's like you're creating your own little microclimate inside your kayaking gear.
Exactly.
But what about those times when you need to get out of the kayak? Like to take a break or stretch your legs or something?
Yeah, that's when it gets a little trickier. The key is to minimize the amount of time you're exposed to the elements. So have your warm layers ready to throw on.
Yeah.
And maybe even consider bringing like a small insulated mat to stand on.
That's smart. You don't want to be standing right on the frozen ground or snow. And I remember the Motor City Paddle Club mentioned packing some extra clothes in a dry bag, just in case.
Always a good idea. Better to be over-prepared than under-prepared.
Right.
For sure, having dry clothes can be a lifesaver, especially if you get wet or sweaty, because damp clothing can lead to hypothermia really quickly.
Absolutely.
As we've been talking, I've been picturing myself out there on this peaceful, quiet winter landscape, and honestly, it sounds pretty incredible. But I imagine there are times when it's tough, right?
Go for sure. Winter kayaking can definitely be challenging, both physically and mentally. There will be times when you're battling strong winds or navigating through icy patches or just feeling the cold even though you've got all the gear on.
So it's not just like a leisurely paddle in the park.
Not always, no. But I think that's part of the appeal, It's about pushing your boundaries a little bit, testing your limits, and proving to yourself that you can handle whatever nature throws at you.
Yeah, it sounds like you really have to embrace the challenge. What about people who might be like a little intimidated by pushing themselves that hard?
I think it's about finding your own level of comfort and adventure. You don't have to start with some epic expedition. You can begin with shorter trips on calmer waters and just gradually build up your skills and confidence over time.
So start small and work your way up, just like anything else.
Exactly. And remember, it's not about comparing yourself to others or anything. It's about celebrating your own achievements and enjoying the journey.
Speaking of achievements, what's the most rewarding part of winter kayaking for you?
Ooh, that's a tough one. There's so much I love about it. But I think it really comes down to that feeling of connection with nature. In the winter, when everything is like stripped bare and the world feels really quiet and still, you experience this different kind of beauty, this raw energy that's humbling and inspiring.
It's like you're seeing the world through a whole new lens.
Yes, exactly.
And you're appreciating the beauty and resilience of nature in a way you never have before.
And that shift in perspective, that awe and wonder, it stays with you, even when you're off the water.
So for those who are ready to, take the plunge, what would be your one piece of advice to make that first winter kayaking experience a positive one?
Find a good instructor, a qualified guide, and sign up for a beginner's workshop. It's the best way to learn the basics, get comfortable with the equipment, and most importantly, stay safe. And plus, you meet other people who share your love for adventure.
Right, and maybe make some lifelong paddling buddies. This deep dive into winter kayaking has been really eye-opening. It's not just about paddling, it's about, like you said, pushing boundaries, connecting with nature, and discovering a different kind of beauty.
And don't forget, having fun.
Yes, absolutely. So to everyone listening, I encourage you to step outside your comfort zone and explore the magic of winter kayaking. You might just surprise yourself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, keep exploring.